Welcome to Module 2, the importance of data to underline your strategy. Having an in-depth understanding of what data you have in your business, where it is, how it's used, why it's collected, is all imperative to create that solid email marketing strategy that actually works. Data is your foundation for everything. And whether you're in your marketing department and you're doing it for yourselves, or perhaps you're fortunate enough to have access to a specific data team and analysts that can dig through that wealth of information available to your business, as a marketer, you need to have control. You need to have an insight into your current data situation so that you can use it to inform what you do now and then what you're able to do next to take your strategy to the next level. You've got to learn to love your data. As I said, it really is the foundation for everything that you want to do. It connects into everything else. If you don't have good quality data in the right place that you're able to access and the capacity to disseminate it into a layout that you can actually use to identify different customer types, where they are on their journey and what they need, you're going to really struggle to increase that relevancy that you're searching for in your campaigns, and therefore take them past the basic level and really connect with your subscribers. According to Salesforce's fifth state of marketing research, the median number of data sources used by marketing organizations is projected to jump from 10 in 2017 to 15 in 2019, so last year. Now, what this indicates is a 50% increase in the number of data sources, the median number of data sources in just 2 years. That's a massive amount of data to get to grips with. So we've got to have a really thorough understanding of what it is, where it is, and how we want to use it. And the first place to start with that is how you get the right data. And the right data is the absolute key point here. You have to understand which data it is that you want, that is going to help you to personalize, segment, and trigger your campaigns going forward, and then how you go about getting it. And there are 3 main ways to do that. The first is to ask for that data. The second is to track it and track behavior and what somebody's doing. And the third is to analyze it. Use other pieces of data to link together to give you insight as to what that means going forward. It gives you another layer of complexity to your data. To know your audience, you need to understand the different areas of your data. And I like to call this your data pyramid. So it's made up of 5 key areas and then the analysis area that can be used through artificial intelligence. So let me take you through each of those areas and some examples of how you can collect that data in your business. So we start with known data. This is the data that's collected directly from asking your subscribers, including details such as their preferences and demographic data, which is things like who your buyer is, their date of birth, address, name, education, income, those kind of specific details about them. And then firmographic data, which is information used to categorize organizations. So for example, where they are geographically, the number of clients they have, the type of organization or the industry they're in, the size of that company. But be really careful with known data. The reason that I've put it at the bottom of this data pyramid is because it's the information that most of us have, but it's also the most unreliable in the long term, but actually one of the most valuable in the short term. So let me give you an example. Consider this. If you're a home improvement company, you're B&Q or Homebase, for example, and when somebody signs up, which is one of the most common ways for you to collect known data, you ask them if they're planning on renovating their bathroom. Not just if they're planning on renovating their bathroom, because you could ascertain that information through other data, such as browse behavior and what they're looking at on your website or what they're clicking on in your emails, for example. But you ask them if they're planning on renovating their bathroom in the next 6 months. And they tell you yes, or in the next 3 to 6 months, or 6 to 12 months, or 12 to 18 months. You put some time period on it, something that you wouldn't necessarily be able to ascertain through other data. Now, in the moment, within that time frame, that data is so valuable, and you can use it to then send them targeted information around what they've told you they're looking to do. However, once that time has passed and or they've completed that renovation, that data very quickly becomes out of date, and the emails that you're sending recommending new bathroom suites based on that data that you collected, that known data, very quickly become unwanted and most likely annoying to the consumer. So you have to think about how you're collecting that data at the starting point, which is usually the sign-up process, but then how you go about making sure that it's updated and that it is relevant throughout the year, for example. So when it comes to collecting data at the beginning through that sign-up process, I've got a chart here on the screen from Litmus from a couple of years ago, but it's still really relevant today, of some of the key areas that people use to gather data and to prompt the email sign-up process. So, of course, at the top, you've got sign up on your homepage or mobile app, and I would extend that to on your website generally, although there are other areas of this report, such as a lightbox or pop-up on your website. So those areas are covered slightly individually here as well. The key thing is that any touch point you have with your prospects or customers, you need to be thinking about how you can get them on your email list, how you can make a smooth transition to gather their data, get their opt-in if you're using consent under GDPR and PECA, to send them marketing communications. And of course, there are other ways to process the data as well, but consent is your main route. So how are you going to get people and encourage them to come onto your email list so that you can nurture them, you can educate them, and you can drive them through to a first purchase, and then drive them through your retention strategy to keep buying from you and become loyal customers and advocates for your brand. So think about every touch point, and this just gives you some ideas of doing that. Now, there are some examples on here that I would just put as cautionary tales. Purchasing an email list, list rental, co-registration. Be very careful with these types of email sources. Now, a lot of B2B businesses use these and use them very successfully, but I would certainly hazard caution even for B2B, and for B2C, I would stay away from them completely. Co-reg may be okay depending on your business, but it's a very risky source of data. So let's start there. So co-registration is where on a third-party website, you have a sign-up for your email program alongside multiple other sign-ups. So this is usually done on websites that offer perhaps price comparisons or some kind of grouping style website where you've got lots of businesses advertised together. So with that, people may forget what they're opting into. They may just be opting in to get through that process. It's not the best quality data. So in that case, I would think about putting in maybe a double opt-in to confirm that they did want to sign up, that they know exactly what they're signing up for, and that they are taking that positive action towards it as well. So a double opt-in is where you're sent an email post sign-up form that asks you to confirm that you actually wanted to sign up, and you're not signed up to receive emails from that brand until you click on that confirmation link in the email. I wouldn't use double opt-in for other types of sign up necessarily, particularly your website or anything direct like that, because you've got much more high quality data. You don't need it legally, although if you want to be best of the best practice, you can implement it. And certainly for Germany and Canada, it is one of the best ways to prove the legal opt-in as well. But if you're thinking about doing perhaps a sweepstake or a contest entry, which shows up on here as well, the co-registration, the slightly more risky data, and you can judge this by the quality of the data coming through as well. If you see high bounce rates, if you see that the data coming through from a particular source doesn't engage very well going forward or at the same level as you would get through your direct website signups, you could think about putting double opt-in in place to confirm that sign up. So with email list rental and purchased email lists, be careful obviously because of GDPR that is compliant if you are thinking about going down that route. But certainly in my experience, the statistics that you will get back, the engagement from those subscribers is much, much, much lower than putting that money into building an organic email list, driving them through perhaps DM pieces, driving them through pay-per-click ads, driving them through social media ads. If you want to spend money, then certainly think about your acquisition strategy and where you're putting that money into driving your email sign-up process. And do think about that acquisition strategy and any marketing channels that you're using to push out currently. Think about how you can optimize what you're doing with those to maximize the budget you're spending in those areas, because not everybody is going to convert straight away that you drive through those ads. So if you can convert even a percentage more of those people through to sign up to your list, you can then bolster the rest of your marketing activity through your email marketing and really add to your success there as well. So think about the different types of sign up forms that you can have. Perhaps you want to click through and get them to come through to a specific landing page where, like the Homebase example, they fill in a few more details in order to sign up for your emails. Perhaps you're using a pop-up like Nike or the other example on our screen here, I can't remember what the company's called. But using that pop-up to break through the process that they're doing and offer them the chance to sign up. There's a couple of things to note here with pop-ups. Be very careful about pop-ups. I'll link to a blog that I've got about pop-ups, but basically you need to be thinking about the timing of your pop-up, the placement of your pop-up, the design of your pop-up. So let me give you an example. There's a couple of examples here. So the first is that subscribers want to be recognized as being subscribers. So if somebody's on your email list, don't show them a pop-up on your website. If you can connect that data together, it all comes back to data. If you can connect that data together and understand that they're already a subscriber, don't show them that pop-up. If you know that they've been shown the pop-up and closed it down, for example, don't show it to them again for a set period. So don't show it to them for the next 30 days, for example. So you're not bombarding them with that sign-up opportunity. And of course, you will have other sign-up opportunities on your website as well if they want to get back to that. Also think about the design, so make it really easy to close down, make it clean and simple to engage with, like the two examples on the screen. Also think about the placement. So there are different types of pop-up. You could have an on-exit pop-up. You could have a time-delayed pop-up. You can have an on-scroll pop-up. So all of these basically wait for different actions to happen. So a customer or a prospect who have been on your website or on a certain page for a certain amount of time, to have scrolled to a specific area of your website, perhaps clicking on a link to sign up, and instead of taking them to a dedicated page like Homebase, it gives you a pop-up instead. On exit, where they go to mouse over to close down that window and then a pop-up comes up. So there's lots of different types that you can use. So think about the placement of those different types throughout your website. On your homepage, an on scroll or a time delayed would probably most appropriate. Whereas on a product page, although you want to be intrusive and you do want to break the journey, you don't on a product page, because they're far enough down that search funnel that you want them to go on to buy. So on that page, I would suggest that you put the on exit pop-up. So if they then go to leave the website, then the pop-up comes up. So think about the behavior on each page and where you might want that to be placed. And in terms of timing, what I suggest with a time delayed pop-up, for example, is, and again, this depends on different pages, look at your bounce time rate on Google Analytics, for example, for specific pages. what's your average time in which they exit that page, exit your website from that page, and then set your pop-up for just before that. So if it's 30 seconds, perhaps set your pop-up at 20 seconds. The reason that people get so annoyed with them is because they instantly slam in your face as soon as you get onto a website. You haven't even had a chance to explore the information that's there and make a decision as to whether or not you want to keep exploring the website, you want to buy something. You haven't had a chance to do anything. So think about these things in real life, and think about if you walked into a shop and a shop assistant jumped in front of you immediately as soon as you walked through the door and went, "Hey, do you want to buy something? Hey, do you want to sign up for our email list?" It's scary. It's too intrusive. So be careful about how you're using pop-ups. Also think about how much data you're collecting at each point. So this is an example from Jimmy Choo using a chained sign-up process. So on their website, they have almost a side pop-up that comes up that's on the side of the website that then pops out as you start to explore, asking you to sign up for Jimmy Choo updates. So they collect your email address in the first stage of the sign up. You click the button. You're then subscribed, so it confirms on that next page you can see on the right-hand side of your screen. You are now subscribed to the Jimmy Choo newsletter. To improve the experience, please fill out a little more about yourself so we can tailor our communications to you. So they then ask for a little bit more information in that second step, but you're already subscribed with your minimum amount of information. So you can then go on to personalize your experience a little bit more if you'd like to. So this is a great way to do it, having that two-step sign-up process, maybe a three-step or a four-step, depending on what it is that you're collecting. But get the sign-up on step one, get your basic, your minimum viable information that you need to get them signed up to your email in step one, then ask them for a little bit more so that you can start to tailor their communications. So this is a great way to collect a bit more information on sign up without scaring someone away. The general rule of thumb is that the more information you collect on your form, the less people will complete it, but the more highly qualified they will be. So B2B often have much longer forms because they're prospecting people in order to send them through to the sales team as well as get them on their email list, for example. Or they're doing a little bit of lead scoring and they want to judge how close to their perfect client they are before they then move them through to different stages of their email program and onto the sales team, as I mentioned. So just think about what it is that you need, what type of business you have, and what is that business critical data that you need right now to start personalizing your emails on an ongoing basis. Then think about how you can also collect more information or how you can update information that people are giving you as you go through a process. So you could use progressive profiling in the form of a subscriber survey. So you've got a few examples on your screen here. Now it could be surveys that help you to understand how the experience was with your brand. It could be surveys to understand what people want from your email program or want from your business. There's different types of surveys depending on what your objective is and what you want to achieve. It all goes back to your objectives and then the type of emails that you would put in place. Be careful with surveys. Don't do anything too long. Try and say upfront to people how long it's going to take them. Consider testing, giving them an incentive as well. And even think about having, like we've got with the Home Depot example on the right-hand side, which is a product review email, but think about how you could perhaps use interactive email design to put your general surveys to update people's information and get their opinions on things into your email, like with this product review example here as well. Also think about how you could use in-email polls. So you've got two examples on your screen here, one from eBay where you've got, did you find this email helpful, and the tick or the cross, and you've got the other one there from Google as well with the, was this email helpful? Now you can use this beyond just, was this email helpful? You could use it to update data. So for example, you could use it based on profiling them of what clothing size they click through to. So you could give them different clothing options, and depending on which one they click, you can use that. It's not a strict in-email poll, but you can use that click data to then tell you what's happening next. In-email polls could also be getting people to update their interests, for example, what specific categories they're interested in, or anything else that you want them to tell you. This is known data, don't forget. So think about how you can ask them a specific question that you want to get an answer to. So one of your survey questions, for example, and break it up over a series of emails. You can also think about implementing a preference center. Preference centers are great, particularly with GDPR, where we need people to update different pieces of information, perhaps around emails that they want to stay subscribed to, but also great for getting people to update their information. So what do they want to receive from you? What is some of their demographic information or firmographic information, their interest areas, helping them to control the number of emails that they receive from you and when they receive them. So we've got a couple of examples here that you can use to inspire your preference centers, make them easy to use, make them easy to understand, give explanations of what they're opting into or what that data is going to be used for. So think about how you can go through and collect that data. Now, here's an example for you of a little bit of a breakdown in that. So this was an example from Tommy Tippy. The touch point was that I was at a baby and toddler show event. So it was an offline, in-person event. And they had these signs up saying, sign up to our email club in the feeding area and receive a free gift. So my partner and I, my husband and I said, brilliant, we're going to both sign up. We're both going to get the free gift. So we both went and signed up. They collected minimal information. I think from memory, it was just email and first name. So we both signed up. We both got our free gift of a little mini bottle. Excellent. Walked away, received a welcoming email a little bit later on that day. And my husband and I both received the same welcome email. Now, that would be fine, but specifically thinking about the audience that was at the baby and toddler show, you had different types of people there. You had mums, dads, grandparents, carers, aunties, uncles, all of these people who would have been signing up to the email list. None of that data was collected. Now, for me, that's business critical data, because the welcome email that was sent out actually had an article in it for 10 tips on how to be the best mum you can be. Not very good. In my husband's case, that did not connect with him. Now, just collecting that one more data field to say, who are you in relation to the baby, would have allowed them to tailor that content. And instead of my husband then immediately unsubscribing, he would have stayed subscribed, and in his own words, probably then started forwarding me emails of cool products that they were sending him information on. What's also ironic is that the picture that's shown on this call to action is actually of a man with a baby. So they didn't differentiate that, and that's business critical information in this case. So really understand the data you're collecting, understand your subscribers, and understand what it is that you want to offer to them. So that's your known data. Now let's move on to cultural data. So cultural data, and this is as we move up the pyramid, so this is the second one on the pyramid from the bottom. This is the data that relates to differences in cultural norms and surrounds your wider information. So you're going to need a little bit of analysis here in order to bring this together. It connects different types of products, so by category or by type, by relevancy, allowing you to upsell or cross-sell, for example, or knowing what type of products and services are going to be most relevant to people in different areas of the country or around the world. So supermarkets use this a lot. For example, the products that they advertise that are attractive and are most bought by people in Scotland versus England or Wales are all going to be slightly different depending on the specific region, the tastes of that region, and the trends in that region. Now, crossing over between your known data and your cultural data is your psychographic data. So this refers to personality and emotions based on the behavior of your subscriber and is really linked to purchase choices. So attitudes, lifestyle, hobbies, personality, magazines they watch, TV programs they read. It tells you a little bit more about the why your subscriber might be purchasing. So we've got a little bit of that softer data coming in here as well. And this really involves that much wider database of information and depends on those connections that you want to make. So you've got to think about that analysis side of linking that information together and how you bring in that softer cultural data and information about what is and isn't relevant to people based on specific pieces of information that you know about them, so that you can then tailor that information that you're pushing out there. Then as we move up another level, you've got your contextual data. So this includes information about what's happening right now for the subscribers. So where are they geographically? What device are they opening on? What's the current time of day? What's the weather like for them right now? And real-time content is going to allow you to change sections of your email based on those pieces of contextual data at the moment that the subscriber opens the email. So real-time dynamic content is where that email can change every single time you open the email. The content isn't static like in most emails. So this could include features like countdown timers, weather forecasts, or changing imagery based on the weather or the time of day, live maps that take you to the nearest store, polls so people can vote in an email and see the results right there and then, delivery trackers, or live social media feeds. So for example, with the live maps, if you're a retailer with multiple shops on the high street around the country, you might include a map in your content showing the location of the shop that's closest to the subscriber at the moment that they open the email. Now, with geo-targeting, that map would then change within that same email if they then opened it again later on in the day and were in a different location and closer to a different store. So this really helps you to personalize that content to something that's happening for the subscriber right now. But chances are you're going to need a third-party system unless you've got some of this content and ability built into your ESP, which most of you won't have. So you're going to need a third party such as Kick Dynamic, Fresh Relevance, or Movable Ink to help you do that. Moving up another level in the pyramid, and we've got our behavioral data. So we're starting to get more and more specific with the information that we have available. So this is about tracking subscriber behavior on your website using a dropped pixel on cookie tracking, usually, that can, and there are other ways to do it, that can give you a wealth of information about what your prospect needs right now. It's telling you what they're doing in the moment. So products they've browsed, categories, subcategories, individual products, blog posts they've read, videos they've watched, or any other actions that they've taken on your website. Or perhaps it's that they've opened a specific email or clicked on a specific link in an email, or how many times they've taken those action in an email. If you can bring in social media behavior in terms of them, if they've liked your post, or anything like that that you can feed in about what they're doing with your brand right now. Now, this could also include the fact that they've contacted customer services, for example. What are they doing right now? This information is telling you what they need and what they're actively looking for. So for example, if someone is browsing your FAQs on your website, they're telling you with this behavior that they're looking for more help. If they're looking at multiple products of the same type, they're trying to choose which one is right for them. If they're browsing multiple categories, they might be looking for inspiration. So this is telling you a whole world of information. If they've signed up through a specific lead magnet, for example, they're telling you what it is that they're interested in terms of the content. So all of this is going to give you that abundance of data about what they're interested in right now and how you can best serve them additional content, additional product recommendations, additional information to move them through that process with your company. So to do this, it's all about analysis. It's all about understanding that data and linking it together to understand behavior. But to do that, you've got to have the tracking in place. So it's the 2 and 3 in terms of how we can collect data. So you want to specify what pages, products, and actions that you want to track on your website from previous email campaigns, other marketing channels. How are you going to get that data into your data set so that you can use it for any analysis, you can use it for direct targeting based on that information. So emails based on this could be your abandoned basket emails, abandoned browse emails. So if they've browsed certain products or certain categories, following up with a series of emails based on that if they haven't gone on to purchase. It could be following up on an email if they've clicked on a certain link and then not gone on to purchase or take a specific action. So it allows you to really send them the right information in the moment. Now, the information that we've talked about so far, and some of the information we're going to talk about further up in the data pyramid as well, links into behavioral targeting. But there is a bit of an issue with this. So first of all, behavioral targeting is a marketing method that uses user information to really strengthen your marketing campaigns. So it involves gathering data from a variety of sources about that potential customer and their online browsing behavior, their shopping behavior, and linking all of that in together to help create marketing that is relevant to their habits and their interests and what they need right now. So the primary purpose of this technique is to deliver marketing messages to the segments that have shown the most interest. So right message, right person, right time. But you've got to bring all of that together, and you've got to understand how you're going to do that. Now, one of the main ways that I already mentioned is cookies. The thing with cookies is that you have to get permission nowadays to use cookies. And I've got an example here for you on the screen from the ICO. So I thought, who better cookie policy to give you as an example as that from the ICO? So when you go onto their website, it comes up immediately and it doesn't go away until you close it down. You can scroll up and down on the page that you entered the site in, but you can't navigate out. You can't click on any of the other links. It's all grayed out, as you can see from that example. So I wanted to give you the best example I could of a cookie policy on a website. So this really links in to the cookie law. So the cookie law is a piece of privacy legislation that requires websites to get consent from visitors to store or retrieve any information on a computer, smartphone, or tablet. It was really designed to protect that online privacy by making consumers aware of how information about them is collected and used, and give them a choice whether or not to allow it or not. So it started as an EU directive and it was adopted in May 2011. So this has been around for quite a while, and that directive gave individuals rights to refuse the use of cookies. Each company then updated its own laws, and in the UK, that is put into the Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulations, the PECA laws. So this covers cookies, it covers email, it covers all types of electronic communication and what you can and can't do. That's the marketing law that we're looking at. GDPR is the data law. So GDPR is a European law that we've adopted in the UK and is about how we store and process that data. So when it comes to cookies, when it comes to tracking, when it comes to consent or other ways to process that data to use for marketing, these are the two laws that you want to have in mind and to understand what comes into each element. Now, there are other technologies like Flash or HTML5 local storage that do similar things. These are also covered by the same legislation, but cookies are the most common technique in use, so it's become known as the cookie law, but those other ways of collecting and storing the data are all covered. So let's just have a quick look at some of the key elements of that. Consent is key when it comes to setting those tracking elements. So cookies, for example, has to be clear and positive. It has to be granular and no pre-ticked boxes. They have to understand that what they're opting into and that data is going to be processed and what reasons it's going to be processed for. So profiling, behavior analysis, targeting them with information that is relevant to them, they have to understand this. So if you're going to use that behavioral data and you're going to track information, particularly on your website, but it does cover other areas, then you have to really understand what the laws say. Those are just 3 of the stipulations. You have to make sure that you really do understand the ins and outs of that. Now, From what I understand, this is all still in flux at the time of giving you this seminar and recording this information. So we'll have to wait and see how this changes. I know that there are a lot of people lobbying for changes in this because people do want personalized communication. So I think that there needs to be some kind of compromise in terms of the laws, that people understand what's being collected, but that we don't have to perhaps go into such granular detail. So we'll see what happens. PECA is due to be updated to e-privacy, but it keeps getting pushed back. So we'll see what happens with that through the updates over the next few years as well. So the point here is keep an eye on the legals, understand what the legals are right now, do your best to obviously meet those stipulations, but definitely keep an eye on what's going to happen in the future. So that's your behavioral data. And one other way of doing behavioral targeting and bringing data in is your purchase data. So this is really at the top of your pyramid and what you can do in terms of collecting data. So this is looking at information such as what, when, and how many times they've previously bought from you. And it's really important to link in your offline data if you can collect it with those EPOS systems, those point of sale platforms that you have in your shops perhaps, with your e-commerce online platforms, and making sure that all of that data is feeding in and recording into your CRM, or that it's available if you're not using a CRM in your marketing automation platform or your ESP, if you don't have a CRM as a central data reciprocal and you're just pushing it through to your email platform. So make sure it's all in there, make sure it's accessible, make sure you understand what you've got, because there is such a variety of data. And, you know, those are the 5 key segments that we've talked about there, but there's other types of data you can collect, and that's the quantitative data, but there's the softer sources of qualitative data. Focus groups, user experience studies, those surveys that we talked about, net promoter scores, customer services feedback, chat on social media. So think about what's available and what's relevant to you and how you want to use it within your business. Now, one of the best ways to do this, and of course, don't forget, you've also got, before I go on to the next point, artificial intelligence that will then, or your data analysis teams, or yourselves, that will pick up perhaps 2, 3, 4 pieces of those individual elements of data and merge them together to figure out what that data is telling you. So, for example, let me give you a couple of examples on this. You could use that data, merge it together, merge 3 pieces of data to create other segments. So in RFM analysis, your recency of how recently someone's bought from you, how frequently they buy from you, and how much they've spent with you. Now, you can adapt this if you're B2B as well. B2B would usually use more lead scoring, where you attribute a certain number of points to each action that a subscriber takes that makes them a hotter and hotter lead as they take more and more actions that lead them down the funnel. But RFM analysis is usually used by B2C, but B2B can absolutely use it as well. Perhaps switch out monetary for the number of downloads they've done, or whatever your conversion action might be. So you can use this to then define whether someone is a VIP, buys from you all the time, spends a lot of money, doesn't need a lot of incentive or any at all to come back and keep buying from you, versus all the way down at the other end of the scale, somebody who's never bought from you before and needs some incentive to come and make that first purchase, and then everyone in between and different levels of data. You could also use it to understand buying pattern, for example. So if you know when someone last bought, what that product was that they last bought, you bring in some additional information about how long that product is likely to last them. With some analysis, you can then predict when that product might run out, for example, and then send campaigns to prompt them to buy again and to renew their purchase. But to understand all of this, you have to understand your data. You have to understand what you've got, where you've got it, how it all connects together. And it might be a little bit like this rickety bridge where there's pieces of information stuck together and tacked on, and that's okay. You know, none of our data views are perfect. This is always going to happen, but as long as you can get from one side to the other and you can understand that data and it is all feeding into where you need it to, that's the main thing that counts. So think about what you've got now. What does your business have in place right now? And what would you like to have? So within your business, if you could have anything, what would you have? So I want you to do a data audit, and I want you to ask yourself some specific questions. Think about what you've currently got in your business. So I want you to list out all of the fields of data that are in your business across different areas of the data pyramid. So list it out, go through what is all the known data you've got, what's the behavioral data, the cultural data, the contextual data, the purchase data. Now, this could be 5 fields that you end up with in your spreadsheet. It could be 5,000, but I want you to think around your entire business and do look at your entire business, because other departments may be using data that you didn't even know was there. So think about where that data is found in your business. List it all out, every single piece, every single data field. And I want you to start looking through that. And I want you to start marking down which pieces of data you're currently using in your campaigns. And then also think about the value of that data to your business. So some data will be more valuable than others. For example, information about a customer's last purchase. Other data might be collected but not used by the business. And in this case, you've got to consider whether or not that data is still needed going forward. Don't collect and store data that you don't need and you're not going to utilize. Make sure, obviously, that this is done across the company. You're thinking about what other teams are utilizing. You don't want to scrap something that someone else is using. So this needs to be a collaborative effort across your business. But you can lead this. You can take charge of it. Get the power back in your court. Once you know what you've got, you can start to do more in-depth analysis. You can look at the quality of that data. For example, first name. What percentage of your audience have first name filled out in their field? Or do you actually find that you've got 20% of your audience where that's blank? You've got to look at what you can then update, what you want to update, how you're collecting that data. This is going to give you the starting point for everything that we're going to talk about in the rest of this course. To understand what you've got, where it is in your business, how it's being used, is the foundation for your data strategy. And then once you've got that, you can start to think about what's missing. What do you need to have in order to empower your strategies going forward? And what would you like to have? How can you go about collecting that in your business? What have you got in your business that you're not currently using in your email marketing? Why aren't you using it? Could you be using it? Do you want to use it? Is it because it's in a different platform and you don't have access to that? There's no connection between that and your email service provider. Could that connection be created? Is there a technological issue there as to why it can't be created? This is going to give you such a view of what's going on. So if you don't have data, think about why you currently don't have it. Is it in the business, but you just don't have a connection? Or is it that it's not collected? And do you need to ask for it? Do you need to track it? Or do you need to analyze it in order to get it? And how do you go about doing it? So which of those 3 do you need to put in place in order to get that information and update what you're doing? Now, I've got a free download for you. You can go to that link and download this spreadsheet. It's a document that gives you a spreadsheet layout that you can then implement for yourself in your business. This is the basic starting point that you would use for that spreadsheet. You can add additional columns depending on your business and depending on how high level or how low level you want to go with your data audit. But before you do anything else on this course, before you start implementing any of the other actions, I really would recommend that you start here, because the amount of times that we've done this with clients and there has been major breakthroughs, you're going to get ideas, you're going to get an understanding of your data, you're going to get information about how to better target, segment, and personalize your campaigns purely by doing this activity within your business. So bring those types of data together. Think about how you can understand your data, and then you can identify markers that are going to allow you to discover the type of prospect that that person is, what they need from you right now, and how you can help them going forward. All of this is going to be most useful when you can create that single customer view where all of the data you hold about your customers is stored and consolidated together. Now, this is the nirvana. You may not be able to get to that single customer view. You may not have a CRM system. So think about if you're using email as your central point, how you can bring that data into your email platform so that you can use it and consolidate it all together. This could be pulled from different marketing channels and really should be, if you can, create that holistic view of data within your business, not just in your email marketing. So a true single customer view is going to mean that you can bring together a huge amount of data in a meaningful way and create that fuller, more personalized picture of the customer and their journey with your business. You're going to be able to improve future interactions, provide more targeted and cohesive experiences, and get a greater insight into their behaviors and interactions. And hopefully link this into an omni-channel marketing strategy. We want to be able to personalize, segment, automate our campaigns so that we can exceed the expectations of our subscribers, of our audiences. So that's it for this module. Data is really so important to everything. So make sure that you focus in on what we've talked about here, do that data audit, and get that thorough understanding of what is in your database right now and what you need to have going forward.